MongoDB. How do I connect to it? How do I install it? How do I get files from it? How do I send files to it? This, that, and the other. Well, today we're going to figure that out in this video. Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing good. Hope you guys are staying safe. As the title of this video says, we're going to be building and connecting to MongoDB. Now, this isn't going to be a big application or anything. We're just going to be creating a register form and showing how to connect your Next.js application to a Mongo database. That's it. So with all that said, let's jump right into the project. All right, guys, so I've created a directory for our project, and mine's going to be called MongoDB Next.js. You guys can go ahead and call yours whatever you want. I also have installed Next.js within this directory. So what we're going to do is come over here, and when I installed the Next.js, I elected to have the source folder here. So within our source folder, we're going to come in here and we're going to create a new folder, and here we're going to call it utils, and we're going to create another one, and this is going to be called model, and it's plural just because we're only going to be using one model scheme, or just one model. So within model, we're going to create a new file. It's going to be called, let's call it user.js. So user.js, that's fine. And within utils, we're going to be calling this MongoDB.js. So when we do that, we also want to come into this source folder and create a new file. And this file is going to be called .env. And just for good practice, we're going to go into our git ignore, and we're going to place .env within it. So it's going to be .env, and we're going to save that. So that way our credentials don't get saved when we push stuff to git. So yeah, that's pretty much the basic level of everything. So if you're going to do anything that involves credentials or anything like that, you want to place it within .env. So these are the three files we're going to be working with in the quote-unquote backend side for our model. Well, I mean for our MongoDB. Now within the source folder, we're just going to create, in fact, actually let's just do it here. So page.js, let's run this really quickly. npm, let's cd into that, npm run dev. So we're going to be running this on localhost 3000. So let's go ahead and start that up. Cool. So we have this. We don't want this. Let's go ahead and close this out, and let's go ahead and do this. So we're going to take everything in here, and we're going to just do that, and let's keep it this way so nothing should be there. Let's go ahead and refresh this. Cool. And let's say, in fact, let's do one last thing here. Let's go ahead and clear out the CSS. Cool. So now, there we go. So now if we come over here, we're going to say h1, and we're just going to say hello world. And there we go. It's right over there. This is the most we're going to do. We're not going to do anything fancy and do any CSS or anything. We're just going to be creating a form for the front end for the most part, just to pass information to the back end. But let's start off with all of this first. So before we do this, let's go ahead and head over to MongoDB. So when I come into MongoDB, so I'm just going to search up MongoDB, and you're going to have to create an account. You can do that, create a free account, whatever. I already have a free account, so sign in. I'm just going to go ahead and sign in and get back to you guys. All right, so when you sign in, for those of you who've already been using MongoDB, it's going to take you to your last document or your last database. What you want to do is just come over to this atlas right here. It's going to show you all your projects, and you're just going to say new project. For the new project, the project name, we're going to be calling this database. Let's say database connect. And now, although this says it's optional, add tags optional, for some reason they actually want you to add tabs. So this is some kind of new update. So we're just going to call this application, and then next. And we are the project owner, so that's the only thing we're going to be worried about. So here it says give your members access permissions below. You're the project owner, and that's what you want to keep it as. and in the top it just says invite new or existing users via email address. We don't need to do any of that, so just go ahead and click create project, and right now it's going to be spinning up some things for you to create this new project with. So now you're going to be able to create a cluster. So when you do that, you want to hit create, and here is where the nitty gritty of all is. So you want to use the free, so make sure you're using MO free. You don't really need to do anything else here, and then just hit create deployment. There we go. So it's going to say you can't set up yet because we need to set up our firewall access. So here the cluster is provisioning. You're going to get a username, which is typically just your account name or something like that, or whatever pertains to your account. And then for password, you're going to be given a password. I'm not going to show you my password, but you're going to be given a password. But before we get that, before we get out of here, we're just going to hit copy, and let's make sure that copied. So we're going to hit copy. It's not showing me that it's copied, so I'm just going to keep hitting copy. Well, I guess it copied, and then we're going to say create user. So since we're going to say create user, remember guys, all this is kind of new interface that they have. So it's still the same MongoDB, it's just, I think it's just a new user interface. So here we're going to be using the Node.js 5.5 or later, or whatever that is. And as you can see, you have all the credentials here. It's going to tell you how to install MongoDB. We're going to be doing all of this. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to grab that password that we just had, and we're going to save it within here. So I'm not going to show you mine, but I'm going to go ahead and save it and then get out of here. Okay, so mine has been saved. What I want to do now is I want to open up this part of my terminal, and then I'm going to say, actually, let's just go back here and let's grab this command. So we're going to grab that, install MongoDB, and boom, just like that, it's been installed, so we can get out of here. Now I want to scroll down here, and here is how well, it doesn't matter, I guess, because our password already shows here. So I guess it wouldn't matter, I just have to change it later on. So here it's going to say add connection string in your application code. So now we need this. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that and come over here. So since you've already seen that password, we're just going to go into that .env, and we're going to paste this in there. Let's wrap that, and we're going to give this a name. So we're going to call this not const, sorry, we're going to call this Mongo URI, and let's give this backticks. And just like that, we have all our credentials for our MongoDB, and this is all we need right now. So later on, I'm going to go ahead and change this up, or I'm just going to delete this database, so it doesn't really matter. So this is how you want your setup. So when we're done with that, we're just going to hit okay, and as you can see, we're all done with this. We don't really need all that. Now let's go ahead and close that. As you can see, everything's done, but now we can just hit connect. So okay, that's fine. We just hit done. Just go ahead and hit database. Now we can hit browse connections. Browse collections. So as you can see, there's no collection. There's nothing within our databases is 0. Our collections is 0. So there's nothing within our database. We've not pushed anything to MongoDB. We've not really made a real connection. So we're going to do that right now. Now that we're back within our MongoDB, within the utils folder, now we can actually start writing down a way to connect to our MongoDB. So what we want to do first is we want to say import mongoose from mongoose, and then we want to come down here and let's go over to this, and now we can say npm install mongoose and let that install really quickly. We can clear that out, and then let's just close out of that. So now we have mongoose. Let's go ahead and save that. And now we can come down here and say const And remember in our .env file, we saved MongoDB, we saved the credentials for MongoDB as Mongo URI. So we're going to say Mongo URI is equal to process.env.mongo URI. And this is typically how you extract data from our env file. We say process.env and we grab that Mongo URI from it. So we're just going to be referring to it as Mongo URI. So here's where the coding actually starts. So we're going to say if there's no Mongo URI, so meaning you didn't save anything within your .env file, you want to throw a new error, and this error is going to say please define Mongo URI environment variable there we go inside .env, and let's wrap this. Cool. There we go. And now we're gonna state if we do have that Mongo URI. So if we do have that Mongo URI, what you want to say is async function database connect. So this is what we're going to be calling this function. So we're going to say database connect, and it's going to say if mongoose dot connection dot ready state does not equal to 1, so it doesn't equal to 1, there we go, then we want to say try catch, we want to state await mongoose dot connect mongo URI, there we go, and we want to console.log database is connected. So what does this mean? When you're working with MongoDB, there are things called ready states, and for ready state, it indicates the current state of the mongoose connection. So if you have 0, it means it's disconnected, 1 means it's connected, 2 means it's connecting, 3 means it's disconnecting. So what you're saying here is if the ready state does not equal to 1, meaning it's not connected, then we want to run this. So if mongoose.connection.ready state does not equal to 1, which 1 is connected, then we want to connect it. So 1, remember, means connected. So if ready state does not equal connected, then we want to connect it by saying await mongoose.connect to this Mongo URI. That's all this means. And in order to know that we are connected, we're just going to say console log database is connected. That's all this is. So now to catch the error, we're going to say console.log error, and we're going to say throw error. That's it. Now we have an else because we had an if. So now we have an else, and this actually, the else is going to be down here. So now we have an else, and this else is going to state console.log database is already connected. So the reason we have this part, let's do this. Let's just end it out here by saying export default database connect. Cool. And the reason we have this is because typically because Next.js has it's server facing, so it works on the server first. So all the server everything loads up on the server first, pretty much. So two things. One, when you navigate between pages within Next.js, it can trigger server-side code, which would lead to additional database queries. So when you're like navigating between pages, because it's rendering server first, it might try and reconnect your database, which will cause an error, because if the database is already connected and you're trying to reconnect it's gonna it might throw an error, it might stop and then try and reconnect. So by saying database is already connected, you know that, hey, like it's trying to reconnect, but the database is already connected. Also, there's another thing called hot module reloading with Next.js. This happens typically during development. So in development mode, when you make changes to your code, it can cause Next.js to recompile, and then it'll reload parts of the application, which will then open up like new database connections. So you don't want that happening during development. So you have to like properly factor in like error handling and things like that, because like I said, in development mode, when you make the changes to your code, it will cause the Next.js to like recompile and reload certain parts of your application, which could potentially open new database connections. So those are reasons. There are many more, I guess. Those are reasons why you want to make sure your MongoDB is structured in a different way than it would be during like with Node.js, unless it just wouldn't work properly. So this is pretty much it. This is how you set it up. So now let's actually see if it works. So now we want to create a user model. So we're going to be creating a register user model. So we're just going to do that right now. In order to create the schema, what you want to say is, once again, import mongoose from mongoose. And then we're going to say const user schema, or you can just call it whatever you want, but typically I just call it user schema, is equal to, you want to say new mongoose.schema, and then it's going to be an object, and we're going to state username, and the username is going to be type. Actually, it's a username, and then object, it's going to be type, and it's going to be string. Then it's going to be required, and then it's going to be true, and we're going to have it as unique. So what does this mean? So the username, the type that we're going to be saving it as, is going to be string. So it's going to be a string for the username. You're typing in a name or something like that. It's required, meaning it's not going to save without this being in the database, because you need a username. You can't just have password with no username attached to it. And unique means no two people can have the same username. That's all it means. So you're giving it some parameters before it saves anything. And so here it's going to be password, and password here is going to be different by just here. Type is going to be the same, and required is true. Now the only thing is, you're not going to have unique, because you don't need the password to be unique, since the next person shouldn't know what your password is, so it shouldn't really be unique. And then typically what I like to do is I like to give it timestamps. So I'll say timestamps here, and I will just say true. So here, whenever it saves with a timestamp when you created, when the data was created in a database, or was saved in a database. So now we're going to say module.exports is equal to mongoose.model.user. And we want to say or mongoose dot model, and we're going to say user. This is what we're going to call it, user, and we're going to say user schema. So this is another way in which this kind of varies from Node.js, because typically with Node.js we could just say export and we use mongoose.model user and then user schema. But here it's very good practice to use both of these because it could cause some errors here and there. So this is the best way that I know of that you can do this. So now, how do we know that this works? Great. Let's go over and now create an API backend. So within source, we're going to create a new folder, and this folder is going to be called API. And then we're going to create a new file, and this file is just going to be called register or something. Yeah. Oh, this should be a file. So this should, let's delete this. So this should be a new folder, and this should be register. And within register, we're going to have a file called route.js. Cool. So this is our backend. This is where we're going to write our logic to save things within our database. So here we're going to say export default, and this is going to function. Well, not export async function, and this should be post. So it's a post method. It's going to say post request, and that's it. So here we're going to say await database connect. So this is another different part, another thing that's different from Node.js. Here you're going to have to call that database function. So the database you have within utils, remember you exported it as database connect. Now you're going to bring that along with you to register, and you're going to say at the top of the function await database connect. So that means whenever this is called, you want to run that database. You want to run that database function. So that's going to be at the top here. And now you want to say const. We're going to be grabbing a username and we're going to be grabbing a password from our front end. So we're going to say await request.json. Cool. And now we can have a try catch. So we're going to say const existing user, which we're not going to have any because we didn't save anything in the backend. We're going to say existing user await user. Okay. All right. We made an error here. This should say const user is equal to that. And now we can say module.exports. Sorry, not module.exports. We're going to say export default user. So let's see, user schema, blah blah blah, new const user is equal to. Okay, so let's close out of this and let's see if we imported it correctly. Now there we go. So now it's imported correctly, and then we can query it by saying find. Why is this not? So we have an error somewhere. So this is weird. Let's see. And that's the problem. This should be models. There we go. So this is plural. So mongoose.models.user. And this should be singular model. So here would say user. There we go. So now we can query the user by saying find. We're just going to say find one. And this is going to be username. So we're using this username to find. So now we're going to state if we have an existing user, then we want to return next response.json. And here we're going to say the message is going to be user already exists. Well, not exists, registered. Let's say user already registered. And then the status here would be 401. Let's see, and there we go. And if we don't have an existing user, now we can say const new user, and now we can input something within our database. So new user would be username and the password. So like I said, we're not hashing the password or anything, just because like this is just we're just showing you how to input something within the database. So don't use this as great practice to create a user. The idea is sound, but the execution is lax, as typically you want to hash this password, or you want to encrypt that password. So here we're going to say await new user dot save, and that's it. And now for error, we can just say return next response.json. And here the message is going to be internal server error, and that means it's a status code of 500. And that's it. So this is all we're doing in order to there we go. Let's do it this way. Yeah, so this is all we're doing in order to save something to our database. So just like that, we're pretty much done. So now let's close out of this and let's just create a quick front end form. So let's go to our page.js. So for our front end, I went ahead and just cleared that whole thing out. So for page.js, we're just going to start from scratch, and we're going to say exports, export default async function, and we're just going to call this home. And then we're going to do this, and we're going to say return. There we go. So that's pretty much it. And now actually this API here with the register should be within app, not within just source. So it should be within app. So it's source, app, API, then register. So within app, we're going to create something called, well, we're just going to create a new folder. It's going to be called component. Within component, we're going to create register.jsx. Should be capitalized. And the reason we're doing this is just we've still got to write like clean code. So RAFCE here. So and now we can just import this in here. There we go. So this is kind of just good practice. So that's why we're doing it. Cool. So we're all done with that. Now we can close out of this. So if we come over here, as you can see register. Let's close out of that. You can see register. Now for register, we're going to be using async use. I said async, we're going to be using use state. It's late, guys. It's like really late. So because we're using use state here, we're going to say use client. And I'm not going to focus a lot on CSS or anything on this, like at all. I'm just going to create a form to show you guys what's going on. I'm going to be using Axios. So we're going to open this up. And we're just going to install Axios. I don't want to use fetch. And that's it. And here we're just going to import Axios. So now let's just create a boilerplate function here. So I mean logic here. So all we're going to say is const. We're going to be using username. Set username is equal to use state. Let's just bring this down one, and this is going to be password. And set password. And then const handle submit. So we're just going to create this quick function here, async e, and here we're going to say e.prevent default, and we're going to say const response is equal to await Axios dot post slash API slash register. There we go. And we're going to be passing in the username, and we're going to be passing in the password. Awesome. So that's it. Now we can go ahead and state, let's see, what do we want to say here? Const responses, blah blah. Okay. Once again, guys, it's late as hell, so I'm just trying to think. Const response, blah blah blah. There we go. And now what we want to say is if, well, let's console log. That's what I was thinking about. Console log response.data. And then now we can say if response.status is equal to 200, then, oh, this reminds me, we got to do something really quick on the back end. We can just say alert. So we want to alert the user by saying registration complete. If not, then we want to say alerts, and we want to say registration failed. There we go. So now we can go into backend really quickly and just go into this route. And what we want to do is we want to come down here. So this is the backend, and we just want to return that. So we forgot to return the next response here. .json. And then the message here is going to be registration success. And now we can have a status of 200, meaning it's successful. Cool. And then we can just close out of that. So that's all we need to do there. So now all we want to do now is create a form. So we're just going to do something really simple. So let's just have a div here. Oh, we already have a div. So let's have a div here that just says class name with full, height full. Actually, let's see height, min height screen. And that's it. Flex, justify center, and items center. That's it. That's all we need. Now we just need a form on submit, and it's going to be handle submit. Cool. And now we can say input type, and this is going to be email. Well, not email, username. Placeholder here is going to be username. Value is going to be username, and then we're going to have unchange, which is set username and e.target.value. Cool. And we missing anything here? Let's say required, and then that should be it. And then let's go ahead and do this, and this is going to be password. This is going to be as minimalistic as possible. It's just a quick setup. Set password, and it should be password. Yeah, that's fine. Let's just keep it at that. Let's see. Let's put this within individual divs. And div. And let's just give it a pattern of 10 or something. Doesn't really matter. That's not what we're not going for aesthetics here. And let's say button here is register, and here we're gonna say class name is, well, we don't really need a class name, do we? It is just border. That's fine. Give it a type. Is gonna be submit. So submit. There we go. So let's see. So if we come over here, as you can see, like I said, it's the most minimalistic. Let's at least give it a border to see where we are. Let's give it a border here. Just want to see where we are. There we go. Now that's the most minimalistic thing we can do. I guess that there probably is a better minimalistic thing to do, but we're just gonna go with this. So here we're gonna say our username is test, our password is test. We're gonna hit register. Okay, so why do we have an error here? Response, internal server error. So what's wrong with our server here? DB connect is not defined. Okay, so that's pretty much how we connect our database. So if that's not working, then it's not going to work. So let's do it again. Await database connect. Isn't that what we called it? If we called it something else, then it's not going to work. DB connect. Yeah, that's what it's called. So why isn't it working? Where is it? So let's see. It's within utils. Utils should be within source. Right? Yep. Let's see. Let's do this. Await DB connect. Sometimes it does do that where it doesn't auto. So let's just say import DB connect from there we go. So that should work now. It does that from time to time. I don't know why. So we have test and register. So when you do that, it's still giving me that. So it has to do with the MongoDB itself. So let's go over to utils. DB connect. That's the problem. So this shouldn't be a function. There we go. We should just be exporting DB connect, not the function. So yeah, that's it. So this should be the function. Yeah, so that should make it work. So now if we come back here, we close out of that. Let's refresh this. Let's close that. Let's refresh it again. Now we can just say test, register. There we go. Now it says registration complete. Okay. I don't know why it threw both. There we go. That's probably why I threw both. So here it says registration success. Let's try another one. So let's say test one, register. There we go. As you can see, it only throws one. It's just because we didn't return it. So now if we come back here and we refresh our Mongo database, there we go. We have 2 results, and this one says test one, and that's it, guys. So this actually took longer than it should. I guess I just made some silly mistakes here and there. It's late, sorry about that. But that's pretty much it. Trust me, there are better ways to set up this front end, but we're just gonna make do with this minimalistic view. Let's go ahead and close all this out. So yeah, we're gonna make use of that, make do with that minimalistic view. Remember, like I said, how you set up this register backend is not how you're supposed to set it up. This is the most minimalistic way to set up the register. This whole project was just to show you guys how to properly save things or data within the database, within MongoDB, and how to set up a MongoDB schema and connected to your database, connected to your application. So with all that said, hope you guys enjoyed this short tutorial, this short application we built. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think of the project. Let me know what you guys would want to see in the near future, and I will see you guys in the next one.